Ruddock. Razor Ruddock. 2 straight knockouts. Big left hand, too. Almost killed Michael Dobbs. Everybody's saying I'm making a big mistake. Tokyo. Ruddock. Ruddock.
Tyson versus Ruddock. Live from the Mirage, March 18th. See it on pay-per-view cable TV.
With more fury and more bad intentions than ever before. Coming up, Mike Tyson, like you've never heard him before. Up close. When he was 10 years old, he was small for his age. He had a little voice and a lisp. The kids used to call him Little Fairy Boy. He was an easy victim of the predators in the urban jungle, Brownsville, New York. Back then, even girls beat him up. Today, just a few months short of his 25th birthday, Mike Tyson is a grown man with a lifetime full of turmoil and exhilaration and tragedy, success, and despair. He is 39-1, 35 knockouts. The only blemish on his record, the astounding defeat at the hands of Buster Douglas. He'll likely never get to avenge. But Mike Tyson wants more than the title now. Like Lewis and Leonard before him, he wants to overcome his first defeat with a terrifying, convincing performance. Might it come a week from today when Tyson steps into the ring with a much bigger fighter named Donovan Razor Ruddock? A fighter some insiders claim Tyson tried to duck before the Douglas fight. Today, we'll talk to the unknown commodity, as some have labeled him, Mike Tyson, about humility, about bad taste, alibis, the critics, and the realities of racism. With the #1 contender in the heavyweight division, Michael Gerard Tyson, up close. Let's take a quote from Bishop Sheen, who said of humility, "The world says that at this moment, the moment of humility, a man is at his worst, but actually, in the moment of humility, a man is at his best. Man is at his worst if he falls into despair, but he is at his best if he is humbled." Do you feel you are better for having been humbled with Buster Douglas?
You know, it's funny that you say that because some people say, well, you're different now. It's better. It's good now. You have more humility in your life. And I said, well, you know what I mean, no one ass whooping is just going to, you know what I mean, give me humility. You know what I mean? Just, you know what I mean, that happened. You know what I mean? I'm still the same person, basically. You know what I mean? It's just that you took it in a perspective. You know what I mean? And when things like that happen, you change your behavior because it's, you believe that to be in an awkward position is because of your behavior, your constant behavior, and they caught up with you.
Well, you know boxing history. Sugar Ray Leonard, Joe Louis, they all came back strong from their first defeat. But Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston, and George Foreman did not. They were the big punchers. Do you feel that because of a loss, you can even subconsciously become a little more tentative because you are no longer invincible?
Not at all. You know what I mean? I believe that's all frame of mind. You know what I mean? Basically, life in general is just frame of mind. You know what I mean? Nothing is worse as the imagination makes it. Nothing is worse. The individual in front of you, anyone in general, life in general, even dying. I believe, you know, your imagination make it worse than it really is.
It's part of that fear issue we talked about so many years ago. People talk about a kinder, gentler Mike Tyson through this humility. I don't know if that's true. I know that you're being more sensitive to other people these days, and that's reported in the New York Times, but gentler, I'm not sure. Let's take a look at this promo for Showtime. I don't know if this is the kinder, gentler Mike Tyson we've heard or read about. Take a look and listen.
March 18th, Mike Tyson, Razor Ruddock. Razor Ruddock died. If he doesn't die, it doesn't count. If he's not dead, it doesn't count.
Now, that outraged a few people. I know you didn't mean it literally, but people don't understand that. They see this savage, this guy who wants to kill Razor Ruddock in the ring. You sorry for saying that?
No, because that's my frame of mind. That's my mentality of, you know what I mean, of my game. You know what I mean? Regardless, you know what I mean, I don't mean to offend people, but that's, you know what I mean, That's me. That's the way I am. That's when I fight. You know what I mean? That's just my whole aura. That's
But
what
you
I
don't
wanna
do it for the bombast. You do it because you're in that frame of mind. In other words, you're not doing it to boast.
Not
You're
at
not
all.
doing it to sell tickets,
Not
particularly.
at all. This is actually how I feel.
Yeah. Let's talk about Razor Ruddock for a few moments. Obviously, the fight coming up March 18th, Monday night. We'll take a look at some video of him. There are some people who suggest you have very little to gain by fighting a guy who could be a tough character. I mean, a guy's got a tremendous left hook. He's been in a situation where, you know, obviously he tore apart people that we've seen before. Do you feel that in some ways this is a fight that may be ill-advised right now at this point, your comeback trail?
Well, believe me, I had my big nights, and I was successful in my big night. Let's see what happens with him on his big night.
Mm-hmm. You are wary of the left hook, are you not?
Yeah, I'm not at all. I'm never.
Dokes was the guy I was trying to think of, by the way. There he is. He almost killed Dokes. Talk about dying.
Well, look at Michael Dokes' position. I know by any chance you don't think Michael Dokes is a better fighter now than when he was champion by any chance. They still have those names, you know what I mean? It's just basically when you see a fighter and you see a beat, you say, well, he beat such and such. And you think of, you normally think of the fighter because of his name. He beat a guy who was, at this particular stage, a great fighter, but really he wasn't.
Let's take a clip. We have a clip from Razor Ruddock talking about you and talking about the upcoming. Now, obviously, a lot of these guys are trying to sell tickets as well, trying to say things to stir it up a little bit, but he said some fairly unkind things about you and about the fight, and how he has no fear of you. Here's Razor Ruddock.
Tyson doesn't believe it himself, saying it's going to be a heated fight. The reason why is that he switched back and forth when he wants. So he said, oh, it's going to be a tough fight. But you see, you have to build up his confidence. You have to say it to himself. You have to say it over and over that it's not going to be a tough fight. It's not going to be as tough as people say it is. But deep down inside, you know it's going to be hell.
Do you know it's going to be hell?
I'm prepared for anything. I understand he's a good fighter, but hey, we'll see.
The big boy.
Yeah.
Right? 6'3", 6'4", 235, a lot heavier, 20 pounds heavier than you. But you fought big boys before.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Is it true that, that you felt you were relieved to lose the title? That's what you were quoted as saying in the New York
Yes.
Times. What do you mean by that? You're a guy that loved the title. You loved to be champion.
Exactly. I said it from a perspective of, you know what I mean, you just, you know what I mean, because from my experience of, because I was never in that position, in my experience, you watch television and you hear, you say, as soon as you lose, they all leave you alone and they go somewhere else. And so I said, good, now, you know, I can relax and recoup. But it wasn't that way. It was totally different. And in other
That
words,
blows my mind, Mike. I mean, you're a guy that you lived to be the champion of the world at some point. I mean, that's what you, the Marciano record, all of these things, and yet you were relieved to lose the title?
But you have to understand what I'm saying. It gave me a chance to recruit of basically, you know what I mean, because of my situation at the time. You know, it was just, my life was under a microscope, basically. And unfortunately, nothing changed. I thought it would change.
So the whole process of losing the title, I'm going to take a look at the sparring session before the Douglas fight, where you got knocked down. Maybe subconsciously you were leading yourself up for a loss. In the fact that you didn't train as well, perhaps, that you were a little sluggish, you weren't the... So maybe it was all a subconscious effort in a certain sense?
But if you could just look carefully and see, that wasn't a knockdown. If you're looking right now, I flipped my foot and he didn't knock me down.
So you were in good enough shape to fight Douglas?
I wasn't in shape I should have been in.
Right. And then recently when you talked before about Douglas being a disgrace in the fight against Holyfield, he wasn't in shape. I mean, you could say the same thing about yourself. I wasn't in shape when I fought Douglas myself.
Exactly.
Were you a disgrace, though? I don't
No,
think
not at all. But me, definitely. No doubt about it.
You were
Definitely.
disgraceful?
I mean, I walk it like I talk it. But you have to say, when a thoroughbred can go through a great deal of fights, regardless. Like, you look at these guys, you look at Gavilan, you look at Robertson, and you think about the situation, they lose to a certain guy and this guy he doesn't hold the title for a year or 2 years, you know what I mean? A guy that gets up for one particular night, you know what I mean, does very well. Don't consider him a great fighter because he beat a great fighter by no means. A great fighter, he's judged by how he accomplished himself as far as his longevity is concerned.
Right now he is 39-1, still with 35 knockouts, still the youngest heavyweight champion ever. He's still just 24 years old. Mike Tyson comes back. We'll talk more at length about the Douglas fight. Hear what Douglas has to say about Tyson et al. Up close after this. Well, Well, it's still the only blight on the career of Mike Tyson, the loss to Buster Douglas in Tokyo. We're going to listen to what Douglas had to say immediately in the euphoria after having beaten you when he was on our program. Let's look and listen to Buster Douglas.
I was in control of the fight. You know, I felt I was in control. I was doing the things that I wanted to do, and that was just be first and beat him to the punch and hit him often. You know, the main thing I was trying to do was hit Mike, because I felt that, you know, no one hit him. When they did hit him, they would just sit back and just be in awe, like they didn't really upset him. You know, they would get tense. But my whole point was just to continue to hit Mike. I mean, show him that he was in there fighting a man. And I know he didn't respect me, you know, and I was going in there to get that respect and to whoop him like I did.
If you could do it over again, obviously your technique would be different. You didn't bob and weave, you didn't move too much, or straight up target. What else would you have done differently? Would you have taken a little
Stopped him. He wouldn't have got up. He wouldn't have went that long.
Let's discuss the criticism of you guys, meaning you and Don and your camp, after the fight. First, you guys tried to overturn the loss to Douglas. That's within your rights, certainly. Then you demand a rematch. Then you demand to fight the Holyfield-Douglas winner. Then you try to stop Holyfield from fighting George Foreman, which you're in the process of doing right now. There are those, Mike, who have said it's as though you guys, all of you, don't feel that there's really any consequences to have lost to Douglas, that you guys are still handling it like you're the champ.
No, but you have to understand the situation. I never tried to, personally try to change the decision. I said, well, he had a decision. I was just basically saying what I thought was wrong as far as the long count for Douglas was concerned.
I know
that's
that,
what
but the other things after the
again,
fight.
Well, I had an option that from 3 organizations to fight, you know what I mean, in paper writing. We have in paper writing for me to be the mandatory defense from the winner of Douglas and Holyfield.
Right.
And then after that, it totally changed. I just want to know what happened from the time before he fought Douglas till after. Why did it change?
Right.
I was the mandatory challenger, and now why I wasn't? Now he's fighting Foreman.
Right. Does it bother you that you'll never get a chance to write it with Buster Douglas? Most likely. I don't think the public's going to buy that fight. I'm pretty sure you agree with me.
Yeah, but
that doesn't bother you that you'll never be able to put that in the record, hey, I got the guy back for beating me?
well, then again, you never know. Anything's possible.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a soundbite at you from some guy that you've wanted to disassociate yourself from for some time. Kevin Rudy came on the show. Said some pretty tough things about you and your handlers. I want you to listen to what he said about your ethic in the ring and what's happened to you.
It all depends on Mike, how he's going to, if he wants to fight again. That's always been my question. Do you really want to fight anymore? Because you fought like you didn't want to fight. If he wants to fight and he goes out there and performs, he could become, great again after a few wins. But he's given a lot of the enemy a lot of confidence now.
What he means, I guess, is that because of your loss, you're not the fighter you once were. You not buy that?
Well, not at all. You know what I mean? It's very easy for people that's not in the ring taking punches or anything like Ruddock could say this and that, but deep in his heart, he knows. And then on March 18th, he's going to even have a better, close view of it.
I want you to talk about some of the comments that have been made in a couple of major magazines. One of them is from Ring Magazine. The other one is from Boxing Illustrated. First one we're going to take a look at is from Boxing Illustrated. This is this month. Larry Merchant. This is this month's George Foreman's on the cover. Larry Merchant talking about your makeup after the Customato Jimmy Jacobs era and how you've treated people, okay? I don't think everybody who comes out of the ghetto treats people that way. I think he has some emotional problems, Mike Tyson, some social problems. That's why he latched on to Don King. Everybody was prepared to love Mike Tyson, and Mike couldn't handle that. I think he's very smart, but very unsophisticated. He has a very difficult time handling people on a one-to-one basis where he is in control. Where was Don King, asks Larry Merchant, where was Don King when Mike Tyson was 13 years old? How many fighters has Don King taken out of the ghetto, out of the crummy gyms? None that I know of. Why is it necessary for Tyson to dump on everybody? It's not just what you do, it's how you do it.
But that isn't true. What he's saying isn't true. Who did I dump on?
Well, over the years, come on, you know. I mean, you've
Well,
dumped on everybody.
You tell me I
Bill
dumped on.
Caton, start with
No,
it.
but you didn't know the situation with Bill Caton. You know, Bill Caton was a lying, conniving, thieving manager. That was the situation. And just because I got involved with Don King and he put me aware to, we got enough proof that what Bill King, how he stole money, put it in a corporation.
All right, forget about Kate for a second. How about Steve Lott?
You can't forget about Kate because it's a fact. That's what he did.
All right,
you
how about Steve Lott, your friend?
I never did anything to Steve Lott.
You fired him.
Huh?
You fired him.
He was with the enemy. He chose who he would rather be with.
How about Kevin?
What about Kevin? Was with the enemy as well. And if you with them, you either with me or against me. If you're not with me, you're against me. So you can't be around me.
We'll come back. More with Mike Tyson. We'll come back after this. Close. Is the reason you've left HBO, or one of the reasons, Larry Merchant, that you wanted him fired and they wouldn't fire him?
One of them, yeah. Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I didn't want him fired. I just didn't want him commentating my fights. That's not true. I didn't want him fired.
He's a boxing commentator.
Well,
for
not for my fight. He doesn't have to be. I have nothing against the other guy.
Lampley?
Lampley, no.
Was there an attempt by Don or any of your advisors to get him off the broadcast?
Off my fights, yes. For me.
And they wouldn't back down?
Absolutely.
And so you left and you went to Showtime?
Well, there was other things involved with it as well.
But that's one of the considerations.
Yeah.
Doesn't a man have a right to his opinion?
Well,
He's a journalist?
Well, that's true. But when that's my night, and you're just a commentator, which your significance doesn't have nothing compared to what I represent that particular night.
Mike, is he only supposed to say good things about you?
No, he's not supposed. But he's not supposed to say derogatory things, get involved and say personal things. You know what I mean? Which is not. So I said, well, I don't want to be involved with that.
Okay. I want you to discuss this Spike Lee piece. It's 3 months old now. It's old news, but there's a couple of things that are worth bringing back. Adon has been on our show many times as a guest. He talked about the word nigger. He talked about it on our program. He also did it in the Spike Lee piece, about why he doesn't feel the word nigger is a pejorative, why it isn't, in his mind, a negative word. Here's Don King from a few years back.
You have to understand that in dealing with this here, if you're poor, you're a poor nigger. If you're rich, you're a rich nigger, but you never stop being a nigger. If you're educated, you're an educated nigger.
You call yourself a nigger.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? Ain't no question, because I'm not going to give you any equivocation. I'm not going to give you any type of option. When I do it, you say the nigger did it. You understand? But it be usually from the white society, when a black does something, he either becomes a Bahamian or some other thing that other than that, or he's this, or some white is thinking for him. He can't do it himself because, as you know, the stereotype image of us in America is that we're lazy, lethargic, we're slowful, we can't rise to the occasion. You know that how we lie and all of us steal. So now with an apprenticeship like that, it's needless to get out of bed.
I think he's trying to paint a pretty broad picture, Mike. That
No, not at all. But he's basically saying, mostly when you represent the word nigger with something is always derogatory, you know, a negative. And he's saying from everything that he accomplished, you know what I mean, he calls himself a nigger, there's no way you could say the word nigger is associated with all the bad and negative things you say, because everything he did was positive to
But you don't call yourself a nigger, do you?
Hey, can I tell you something? I use it from a totally different perspective as Don does. You know what I mean? I say it's because all my friends, we out here, we always talking, we're macking from my background, and we always use the word. And I don't understand why, I won't say you per se, but I don't understand why when you use that word in front of white society, they get upset. They gave us the name, and now they get upset when we say it.
Hey, Jeff Ryan just did a piece in the Ring magazine. What he said is, you got a lot of thanking to do to white people. You got a lot of thanking from people from Cuss to Camille to Steve Lott, even if you may not agree with it, Jimmy Jacobs and all the people right down the line, that there's not enough thanks. There's a lot of saying, hey, the whitey did this, whitey did these days.
But I never
rhetoric.
said, but you're not saying anything properly, because I never said anything anti-white. I'm never saying anything anti-white. I just basically base my opinion of what society is, and that's true. You being Jew should know.
Right.
You know what I mean? You should know.
But don't you think that people these days, there's a lot of rhetoric wrapping itself up into this racial injustice, racism, waving the red flag, look out, this is a racist. There's too much of that going on.
Well, I believe that because it's not being brought out in the right content. You know what I mean? People use that for smoke screens. You know what I mean? Well, you know what I mean? It's hard on me because I'm black. I never said, well, it's tough being black. You know what I mean? It's tough being... That's not true.
Well, you say we should, blacks should move back to the neighborhood. When the point of fact, you live in Ohio
No,
now.
I never said that. I never said we should move back to the neighborhood. I said we should go back to the neighborhood. You know what I mean? And going to the neighborhood is sometimes tough because, like I would say, sometimes I go back to Brownsville sometime, and you have me, and I'm the heavyweight champ. You have me actually fighting sometime in the middle of the street because they're obnoxious childhood friends who, you know what I mean, you grew up with as brothers, and they're obnoxious, and you wind up and you think, what the hell's going on? Sometimes it's very difficult.
So you're glad you're out of the neighborhood sometimes?
Absolutely, absolutely. But sometimes, you know, that's what your roots from. You go down there and you see your friend and say, come on, man, let's go back. Let's go to Beverly Hills with me. Let's go where I come from. Look where I'm living now, and enjoy it. Give them aspirations. So you come up here anytime. But I'm just saying, from the point of view, as you know, most guys, they reach success, they don't want to see that. They don't want to go down there no more. They can't relate to it anymore.
That part I agree, definitely. We'll come back. Some final thoughts with Mike after this.
Travel reigns through Continental. Whether you're taking off for a family vacation or a romantic getaway. Continental, because one airline can make a difference.
The real Mike Tyson is the ultimate dichotomy of strength and power, all rolled into a package combined with the other extreme, sensitivity and kindness. He's an amazing man. I always tease him and say, he talked like Michael Jackson and hit like Reggie Jackson.
Mike, he punches people. He punched me in the arm, like to say hi, and my arm hasn't been right, and I'm suing.
Oh, hi, Mike. Mike, I just wanted to apologize for mentioning the odor eaters. I just figured, you know, without socks and stuff, the guys at the gym have been talking, and I thought maybe those sneaker tamers or something in the shoes would have helped, and I didn't expect you to get angry. The funny thing is, all he did was shake my hand, and this happened, but what the heck?
A punch thrown by Razor Ruddock knocked out Bone Crusher Smith for 7 minutes. Mike Tyson couldn't even knock Smith down. Another punch laid out Michael Dokes for 12 minutes. Dokes may never fight again. A lot of fighters won't get in the ring with Ruddock, but then who in their right mind would? Tyson versus Ruddock, live from the Mirage, March 18th. See it on pay-per-view cable TV.
I was proudest of is having a chance to see Mike at home and spending some time with him. The stories go that you give $100 out to derelicts on the street. You're a little embarrassed by those stories. I know that there is the heart of the champion beyond the champion in the ring. What I want to talk about you, though, right now is Mike Tyson with the kids that you work with, the retarded kids in New York City, Jim Bouton's group, and here they are. I know you spend a lot of time with these young people, and that this is not something that goes reported.
You know, I mean, what can you say? You know, I mean, how can you, how can I say this? How could you stand out and boast and want credit for it? You know what I mean? You know, it's just,
except that, Mike, people don't know this side of you. Maybe you should get the credit for this.
Well, yeah, no, there's no need for, you know what I mean? I'm the kind of person, you know what I mean, don't know me for what kind of individual I am. Just know me for what I do. What you know me for is being a fighter. Just know me for that and respect me as that. You know what I mean? My main concern in life in general is not what any commentator says or anybody basically say that works in any kind of office and say, oh, I didn't like that. My basic concern is what my peers think of me. You know what I mean? The other fighters. You know what I mean? Because they understand what it takes to reach that pinnacle of success. You know what I mean? This is something, you know what I mean? What the hell? You know what I mean? It wasn't always like this for me. You know what I mean? We've seen bad things happen. You know what I mean? What, like you say, these people that they're crucified and they never even made a crime.
Basically, I still believe that you're really a good person, no matter what anyone says. Not that it matters what I say about all of this, but over the years, it's been great talking to you and chronicling your career. It's been a hell of a career.
Yeah, and I still think the best show I ever saw is 2 shows. One with you and your father, and you and Bobby Cheds. The best show that you ever had.
Well, these have been some pretty good ones, too. Thanks, Mike. Congratulations. Best of luck now on the road back, March 18th against
I'll be
Razor.
okay.
Yeah. We'll come back, wrap things up close after this. We want to thank our guest, Mike Tyson, for joining us. Tomorrow, Don McLean of UCLA. They're heading to the NCAA. See you then. Bye-bye.